Hi, I'm Rachana Gupta, and I'm the co-founder of Gynoveda.
Hi, I'm Vishal Gupta. I'm the founder and CEO of Gynoveda.com.
As the world rediscovers the magic of Ayurveda for health and wellness, entrepreneurs are discovering and creating whole new categories for solving lifestyle as well as chronic diseases through Ayurveda. And one such startup is Gynoveda. Gynoveda is approaching women's health concerns with a novel combination of Ayurveda and technology. And the founders themselves are a novel combination of husband and wife pair of Vishal and Rachana. Stay tuned for insights on how to build and scale a health and wellness D2C brand with a very focused target market.
So let's begin at where the two of you met. And I mean, you're not just co-founders, but you're also like a husband-wife couple. So let's start the story from there.
Well, I think, Rachna and I, we are childhood friends. We went to the same school. We almost went to the same college, which is Mithibai and NM in Mumbai, which is the part of the same campus. And we've been knowing, each other almost for 47 years since our
Wow,
childhood. And
47 years.
and in school, while we never knew, obviously, that,
So you guys are like 50 plus today? I mean, you look amazingly young. Like, incredible.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Both of us are almost touching 48, and
Okay.
I think we have been together now, married for 23 years,
Yeah.
and before that 7 years together. So essentially 30 years of relation as husband and wife, uh, and as founders and co-founders. I think the last 4 years have been, or 4 5 years have been a fabulous journey. I think we have discovered and rediscovered ourselves as individuals and as couple.
How did I mean, what were your career graphs like? Like once both of you graduated, what were you doing in corporate world? Like what skill sets did you have when you got inspired to become founders? Just to understand that.
Look, I come from a Bania family. I'm the first one in the last 5 generations that went on to do a job. All my other, you know, uh, where the father, grandfather, and beyond, they had their own businesses. So I started my career by starting my own business as expected, and did that business for 4 5 years. It was an internet
What
website development business.
like an
In
agency,
1996,
web design
it was
agency?
an agency. In
Okay.
1996, making website was as cool as Chat GPT today. So, that's what I did. Had a 150 member team. Uh,
Wow.
Enjoyed the .com boom and the .com doom. Graciously closed that company and realized that I need to pick up some skills, having to really build a scalable business. After that, I worked with some of the sunrise industries of last 20 years. BPO was around the corner in 2002, so I became a part of that. After that, I've been a part of online travel agency company called ClearTrip, and after that, I've been a part of Geo. I was a part of launch team. Been a part of
In
Acco.com.
in what functions? Like sales, marketing, what?
So, well, I think I've played multiple roles. Like, for example, I picked up my operation skills in call center, and global operations is what I picked up in Sutherland, which was a company I worked for. In ClearTrip, I worked with and I worked with 3 or 4 functions. Operations. The other one was building the retail chain, which we eventually closed down, and build the hotel business for ClearTrip. So it was business development essentially. When I went to Geo, I've developed the My Geo app. So I was a business head of that. Having come from the call center, it was about focusing on self support, which is how can you eliminate this whole need of calling up somebody, emailing somebody. So that's the skill of app development that I picked up there. Acco was again as a head of operations, building the initial traction, and bringing things together. Being a part of insurance space, being a part of BPO, been a part of travel. and before that website, all of it, the common theme has been technology and digital. And I couldn't think of anything better. And Gynoveda, in Gynoveda, everything has kind of come together. So being a
Okay.
generalist all my career, and the thing I know is how do you really execute.
Okay. Rachana, what about
You
you?
know, this is my most favorite part because this is where I completely get to speak from my heart. And Vishal said, honestly, a journey that we've spent together for the last more than 23 years. We have an 18-year-old son.
Wow.
So literally kind of living the entire teenager's world right now through him. Never realized we're going to be life partners one day turning into business partners, but I think extremely grateful and thankful for that. So my qualification has been because a commerce graduate, went on to do my MBA in marketing, and then spent almost over 2 decades in the business process outsourcing industry. I worked with very large, women-centric teams, both in my erstwhile organizations, which is Intellinet and then Consent and Teleperformance. And I think somewhere down the line, very clearly, the women advocate in me has always been very strong. And little did I know at that point of time that I'm going to do something about it, but I think it was always there at the forefront. And I have, spent a lot of time in customer experience, in customer relationship management, mapping the entire user journey together, understanding the nuances of what consumers want, customer satisfaction. How do you build robust transaction quality monitoring, training, operation? And I think that experience is something that has been, very enriching. And now, which is, of course, coming in very handy. And, like Vishal said, I think he's always been an intentional entrepreneur because coming from a Banya background that, flew naturally into his genes. I come from a background where it's always been, get a job, do well, through up the ranks. So more like a very secured and so, at the cost of sounding cliched, very clearly an accident.
Who came up with the idea? To do, was it? Uh, I mean, there are typically two paths. Someone says, I want to be a founder, and then they start looking for an idea. And the other
Mhm.
path is someone is inspired by an idea and hence they become a founder. What was it for you guys?
How will
In
that
our
work?
case, uh, it was actually both of us arriving at it without having to sit each other down and say, hey, this is what we are going to do for the rest of our life. I think, both of us were in our mid 40s. And at the time when we were doing extremely well in our respective careers, when I think something happens, when you turn, and a lot of people think it's midlife crisis, but I would like to call it as midlife clarity. I think you realize that there is a lot more meaningful, purposeful thing that you can do, but you don't really have, very clear idea about what you want. And there was a parallel track running in our lives at that point of time. And, Vishal was dealing with an autoimmune disorder called psoriasis for over a decade. And he had tried everything.
What are the symptoms? I've not heard
So,
of
well,
this.
Akshay, there is a in psoriasis, there is skin breakout. The skin starts scaling in a very patchy manner,
Inflammation.
inflammation kind of effect. And I was also dealing with asthma, so I think dealt with it, for 5, 7, 10 years, thanks to the night shift for 7 years in BPO space, completely ruined my, whole health. And I think that's where after trying, several pathies, allopathy, homeopathy, I tumbled upon Ayurveda. And surprisingly, it worked wonders. And it's been now 7, 8, 9 years. I've not had a relapse. And I think that kind of was a tipping point where, as a family, we started recognizing that there is something about Ayurveda that works. Having now tried, for 7, 8, 9 years, for most of the family members and people around us. In fact, people started asking, that you guys are so passionate about your Ayurveda and you keep, advocating about it. Why don't you guys do something in that space, And I think in our own small capacity, Rachana and I one fine morning over chai pe charcha, while being on the jobs, we said, why not I think there was a pain point. The pain point was every time we wanted to go to an Ayurvedic doctor, you would find it very hard to find one. I said, when you are finding it hard to find one, let's create one, right? And there are enough and more doctors. So Rachana went out, she met like 100 doctors in Mumbai, out of which we personally went and met 30, 40 of them. Eventually found this brilliant, doctor, which Rachana, in fact, is in a better position to talk about, and the whole journey of, creating the clinic eventually, which led to creation of Gynoveda.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I had more doctor contact in my phone than, I had of my family and friends. I think that was the kind of obsession which is needed because, this is literally, like I said, both of us are non-doctors. We had experienced the miraculous power of Ayurveda. And I think in some sense, there was a complete transformation that had happened in our lives, Akshay. While we had, always believed earlier in modern medicine, but I think what Ayurveda did to us as a family was life changing. And so the need to see how that can back to at least our loved ones. Pretty much the concept started from there. That's when I went out. I actually pitched to a lot of doctors, trying to understand that what can we do with them together. Uh, but at the end of the day, they're all doctors at heart, right? So it's not like everybody really wants to start a business, but found this really young, dynamic, I would say almost a prodigy in Ayurveda. And convinced him and said, we are going to invest in your clinic. So we ancient invested in a clinic in Santa Cruz East in Mumbai. And this was 2018. And that's where, firsthand, we got to witness the power of Ayurveda getting unleashed even on women's health. Until then, we had seen it on psoriasis in Vishal's case. We had seen it for diabetes. We had seen it for, lifestyle disorders like asthma, arthritis. But we had not seen anything on women's health. And at the clinic where I think it was absolute revelation for us to see what kind of an impact it was doing. Sure, it takes time, but it's a root cause, permanent solution. And that's when I think the aha moment happened.
So,
And
like, once you invested, then you would also go sit there, man the reception, stuff like that. Like that's
that's
how
right.
you
Right.
you
Man
got that
perception,
first-hand
talk to the
experience of.
women. Yes, talk to the women coming there, really, and young women, right? In the age group of anywhere between a 25 to a 35, asking them, did they come there on their own? Did they come there because their parents pushed them? What was the rationale behind coming to Ayurveda? Uh,
And what problems were they coming with?
they were coming with menstrual and reproductive health issues. So PCOS, which is the polycystic ovarian syndrome. They were having issues with irregular periods. They were having issues with fibroids. And most of these issues, Akshay, were chronic enough for them to get surgical intervention. And through Ayurveda, they were completely, it eliminated the need for them to go for any surgery. And it got them back on track anywhere between 4 to 6 to 9 months, depending on how chronic or severe the problem was. So I think the belief just intensified to another level. And it also opened up this landscape saying that, all along we were looking at Ayurveda only for the market, which was already there. It opened up a completely new segment for us, which is women's health. And I think between Vishal and me, we clearly know what our strengths was. So Vishal had worked with AyurTech, he had worked with digital first scale e-commerce operations was something that Vishal understood. And I intuitively came from the world of consumer experience, women's health, putting sentiments together. So I think this is a market that we should not open, there's this famous Maya Angelou quote, which I always say that, it says, I'm interested in women's health because I would be a fool not to be on my own side. I think that kind of, took center stage and both of us decided to do something about it. The name Gynoveda wasn't clearly there. But we also realized that we couldn't have a generalist doctor. We need to have a specialist. And again, back to my search of now finding an Ayurveda gynecologist, which is very rare and few in the country. Again, stumbled upon our third partner, who is Dr. Arti. She's the chief gynecologist and an MD Ayurveda. again went and pitched to her. So I think I've done more pitches to doctors than I've done to investors in my early stages.
Wow.
Difficult. It's difficult to convince a doctor. It's more
Well,
easy.
did you have clarity on what you're building? Are you building a product company? I mean, today, of course, you're like a D2C brand, but at that time, did you think that you will become a product company or you'll open a chain of clinics and experience centers? Like say you have these Kaya and all of these. What was what was the early vision?
Look, I think the vision was very clear that when we identified that menstrual related, reproductive system related issues are what is cropping up and we can solve that. I think the number one question was how big is the problem? And what is in the business parlance, total addressable market. And what was the quickest way to find it? There were two routes that we took. Number one route that we took was, let's find out what is a Google keyword volume. And after having analyzed somewhere close to 24,000 keywords related to menstrual space, we figured out that in the online space alone, that means people who are reachable online through online channels like Facebook, Instagram, social media, Google, and so on, is in the range of 7 to 8 crore women who are already searching or looking for help. The second piece is, we kept reading in media, that, hey, 1 in every 5 women have, some of the other issue. And the sample size for ascertaining that used to be like 200 people. They surveyed and they extrapolated that in a 130 crore, population XYZ. So we said, why not do a primary survey? And that led to the birth of the world's first period test. We, in today's parlance, it's called artificial intelligence. We didn't know what is artificial intelligence. We just asked 5 doctors around us, including Dr. Aarti Patil, who's now a co-founder, that if a patient walks into your clinic, how do you do prognosis? Which means, diagnosing the problem with verbal communication or with other means and not going for a blood test or any sonography and so on. And she said, I asked these 20 questions. And based on that 20 questions, I'm able to ascertain, whether there is a problem or not. We said, can we convert this human intelligence into artificial intelligence? And that gave birth to the first period test of the world. That period test since 2019 has been tried by 6 lakh women across 40 countries. And we've got one of the largest database in terms of intimate health information. And that kind of ascertain that's the space we want to be in. It's a large market. It's a big problem we are solving. And we had no clarity as to, we'll go this way, we'll go that way. But we definitely knew we'll not go the clinic route to begin. Because
Asset
there are
heavy,
that,
hard
sorry,
to find. It's asset heavy, hard to find doctors.
and difficult to scale. I had done all my life, right from, my earlier career of developing website to doing clear trade, which kind of, scaled very quickly, to doing ACO, to doing Geo. All of it had one thing in common, which is the digital thread. I said, and both Rachana and I said, can we take this online and play this out online where we will educate consumers that this is what Ayurveda can do for you if you have period problem. And here is the product, right? And if we just, zoom out a little bit, Akshay, when we talk about marketing and when we talk about building a brand, essentially brands are built by spending money. If the category already exists, say for example, personal care, a face wash, if the category exists for that many years, if you're a new brand, you will have to spend money in emerging as a top of the mind brand, right? That means there are 30 other brands. You want to become the top brand, spend some money and emerge to the top. Or it's a non-competing, space, virgin space, blue ocean, green field. People have a need, but they are not having the demand. That means, hey, Ayurveda, मेरे को अपना problem ठीक करना है period. That means the need is there. बट आयुर्वेद से ठीक होता है ये मुझे पता नहीं है, आयुर्वेद मेडिसिन लेके ठीक होता है ये पता नहीं है, तो उसका डिमांड नहीं है. The guy who goes first and creates a category has to convert the need into demand and then eventually have an offering that converts demand into revenue. In the case of a category that already exists, cut shorted by demand generating into revenue. So for us, actually, the model was broadly clear कि online करेंगे, consumer के पास directly जाएंगे, and that has the second huge advantage apart from scalability is that you get to speak to the consumer directly. And when you're building a category, that is wealth. Information that you're gathering from the consumer will help you iterate your product, iterate your offering, iterate your various process systems. But if you go B2B, like if you go via a doctor who will in turn dispense the medicine or prescribe, I will never get to meet a consumer. So that was the second piece that was clear to us, that we want to directly talk to the consumer. So I think going online, selling it via website, directly talking to the consumer, educating them, these were the things that were clear in 2019. Obviously, none of us knew that D2C boom will happen. And when we started, we did not even know the word D2C. It's only when we raised money and we became a part of Fireside Portfolio Company. Investors educated us. Oh, by the way, guys, this is called this is called D2C. So yeah, I think
Amazing.
that's been.
Um, so the traditional way in which gynecology, like a gyno-related problem would be solved is a woman would visit a doctor. The doctor would do prognosis by asking those 20 questions, based on which the doctor would come to a conclusion that this is the problem. And for every problem, there would be a fixed product that would be prescribed along with a frequency and how to consume and whatever other instructions, and maybe some lifestyle change instructions, etc. So all of this could be digitized. Like the prognosis part of it, you could digitize through like a questionnaire, online questionnaire with an algorithm behind it that is able to arrive at the same conclusion which a human doctor arrives at, and then give a recommendation that this is the right product for this duration and these are additional lifestyle changes. So that's what you wanted to build, like a digital version of a physical consent and selling of the product process.
That's correct. I think we went on to build that. It continues to be there on gynoveda.com. And the way we went about uh, bypassing this whole need for going to the doctor was to be able to So the whole underlying theme was self-care. How do we educate you to know your body really well? Educate you on what is the root cause if you're facing these symptoms. Because, hey, look, I think, and Rachana can speak a little more about this, but, if my periods haven't come for the last 60 days, right? It's you don't have to diagnose that. A woman can already knows. What she wants to know is what is the solution and why is it happening to me? And that's exactly where we said, let's use this model of content to commerce. Let's record the videos, explain her why this happened and what she can do about it. And here is the product that can solve her problem. Right? I think that's how, in fact, a doctor would also. If you go to a doctor and you tell the doctor, hey, look, I'm not getting the periods. Can you help me do that? And help me understand? While doctor may not be able to explain the whole science behind it. We just said, can we make this an awesome experience by even explaining science about it? Why this is happening and how do you solve it and how really Ayurveda works? Maybe Rachana can add a little bit of that on the community aspect.
Yeah. So
What
add to what
before-
Vishal's Akshay. We knew we had a product that works. So the solution was very clearly identified. I think the missing blocks that had to be established at that stage was one, how do you first identify women who are dealing with this? right? Because you don't have an offline setup. So it's not like somebody will just walk in into your clinic. In an online space, with whatever filters and targeting you do, how do you get women to open up about their most intimate health problem, menstrual, reproductive, and vaginal health? And I think that's where period test that we built, and we had over 6 lakh women who had responded and taken the test. I think that insight was super precious. That insight told us everything about, which area to focus on. So clearly PCOS, irregular periods, vaginal infection, these were the three biggest disorders that came out. And we said with a very lean team and actually just, on the verge of getting funded, where do you really prioritize? And do you want to say, do you want to go make yourself overly thin, or do you want to get deep into a problem? I think, and how do you convince women that Ayurveda से ये problem ठीक हो सकता है, where her entire conditioning over the last 20-25 years is that you have to live with it, you have to manage it. So I think we had two big challenges. One is identification of women who were dealing with these disorders. And second is the entire education, the whole IDA, awareness, interest, desire, action. Literally, how do you bring that framework out? And I remember during our early days, there was no choice but to chat with women. And that's how actually I started by chatting along with Dr. Arti Patil and just one team member that we had. And today she's still a integral part of our team. 2019, right? Chatting with women, answering all the rebuttals or questions they had, and then somehow convincing them that at least try to kar lo. अगर फायदा नहीं करेगा तो नुकसान भी नहीं करेगा आयुर्वेदिक है नेचुरल है साइड इफेक्ट्स फ्री है but very quickly also realized that this is not a scalable model, right? I mean, then you're going to build an army of call centers just to get your lead gen and conversion. What the exercise gave us was, again, very deep consumer insight, saying what are the top 3 or 4 things which a woman is looking for. And what is the persona of women that you as a brand, when you're just starting out, you're going to be talking? So when I say persona, I think very clearly we said these are going to be women who were aware of their problem. And these are going to be women who also knew that the current treatment that they are taking is harmful and it's, suppressing the problem. It's not treating the problem. We said, let's go after them. And let's narrow our education and our content and our website product page to speak to these women. So used all the learnings from chat, converted them into long form content, brought out doctor-led content. And I was very clear at the beginning that we are going to only have real women on camera talk about their lives. So it was very easy to get influencers and just spend money and get women to talk about your problem, but I think it would have defeated the authenticity of the brand and the space, especially because these are digestibles. You're not applying something externally, right? So what you consume inside your body has to be something that you know for a fact that you can trust, and you know what is the early signs of progress, and only if somebody has taken it, she can talk about it. Uh, so yeah, I think using our, consumer insights, using all the learnings from chat, sharing it with Vishal, he built the website, he built the initial landing pages, and that's how the journey began. And this was, March 1, 2020 is when our e-commerce website went live. You know what happened to the world, no? 3 weeks thereafter.
Right, right. One question I had here. So, yeah, what was your product range, or how many SKUs did you launch with?
We had 7 SKUs.
Hmm.
And these were, one was PCOS, the second was irregular periods, the third was vaginal infection, the fourth was for heavy bleeding. So these were the SKUs but we very clearly knew 80% of the women who had PCOS were falling into a category where they were having delayed periods. And so we said, let's use the Pareto principle and run after women that we really will be able to make it.
Okay, got it. And you did not necessarily need that complex consultative selling process here because these are low risk medicines. Like there is no risk if somebody self medicates and has excessive medication or takes the wrong medication and all because it's Ayurveda. So it is fundamentally low risk as compared to allopathic.
So one I would say more than lower risk, Akshay, I think the fact that we were educating everything. Why does the problem happen? How will Ayurveda treat it? And what you need to do, right? Medicine plus diet plus through webinars and through the community that we built, there was instant, unlimited doctor support provided to them. The only difference was you're not physically going to a doctor. You're doing it all through digital channels. And I think because it was COVID, habits had changed, right? Women were already used to doing online consultation, online webinar attendance. So I think somewhere that phenomena, was something that we were able to leverage even further. And it kind of fitted into their, user behavior of doing things naturally.
Essentially,
I
the
just like to
community
emphasize.
replaced the consultative process. Like
That's
the
right.
community would,
That's right.
community and content replaced the consultative
Absolutely.
sales.
And the community was not built to sell product. The
Hmm.
community was built to provide value.
Right.
Every single FAQ that the consumer had, we wanted her to get instantaneous response and from a credible source, which is a team of doctors. So I
Hmm.
think the focus was, can we build the largest, safe, non-judgmental, non-intrusive space for women to actually just open their heart out? You may not have even purchased the product, but you find it easier to speak to a stranger about a vaginal infection you're going through.
Yeah.
And because you fear being judged when you talk to somebody known. Literally, that was the ethos with which we started the community. And today it our moat of the business, I would say, is the fact that we've built the largest online community on next to net.
Where have you built this? Which platform and
This is,
how?
this is currently hosted on Facebook. It's called Circle of Sisterhood. And truly, as the name denotes, it's truly a sisterhood of women, different age groups, different parts of India, different socioeconomic demographics, but all united in one dream to get freedom from their period problems and truly to become a best version of it.
Okay. And how did you build this up? What was the way to scale?
So the way to scale was when we built it up, I literally had to call up our consumers who had purchased and request and plead them to come to the community because they were like, हमने आपसे खरीद लिया, हमको कुछ problem है, हम phone करेंगे. And I had to literally convince them that what is the benefit that you will get when you join this community. So I think the premise of bringing the first 100 women was obviously, we reaching out to them. What happened was, and at that point of time, Dr. Arti and I would also very extensively do webinars for women, answer all their questions. So we would, similarly like this session, record the webinar, put it out in the community, more engagement happened. We realized that some women were coming out and talking about the changes they had seen. Periods coming back on track, overall energy, feeling good, no longer having a problem of, body shaming, body positivity was happening. They were very free to talk about it in the community. So I said, okay, let me take a step further. And I requested them to come on camera. And I said, would you be okay to share your narrative and just inspire maybe one woman in this world with a narrative if that could make a difference? And surprisingly, they were absolutely okay. There were many women who were not okay because it's still considered taboo. They had to ask their family for permission. But I think the larger picture was the mission was accomplished. Did not want to, depend on influencers who had not consumed the product, but truly can our women from the community become advocates of the brand? And so I think constantly giving to the community what the community wants and not what a brand wants to do, I think has been,
How do you weave in commerce into community? There's a Facebook group, women are chatting with each other, sharing questions, etc., sharing answers. How does commerce get driven through this?
Well, I think I'll just bridge that. We never actually, like Rachana said, 1 lakh community members, and it's been 3 years. Actually, we have never mixed commerce and community, and that's what Rachna's vision has been. That provide women a safe place to open her heart and discuss what she wants. But I think that's subtle branding, because when you are talking about people's problem and how do you really solve it, it is people who are saying that, hey, I had this problem and I took Gynoveda product and it kind of worked. And they are posting their success stories, by themselves. We are not. So it's a absolutely user generated content. And Rachna is the host for that. And she's just facilitating from her heart. She's out there to just help women who are reaching out.
And just to elaborate that, right, I think when commerce is an out of what you do, right? Truly, the input is community building, revenue, commerce is an outcome. I think what happens is actually specifically for Ayurveda, it takes anywhere between 4 to 6 to 9 months to see results. And so that even when she starts seeing the first sign, or if she starts seeing something which she believes could be a side effect, but there is a doctor and a moderator there like us telling her that, hey, this is known. If this is happening, it's a good sign. It's a sign of detoxification. Your toxins are coming out. Her answers are getting addressed. And that is what further leads to the confidence that I'm not alone in this journey. They are with me, which is the Gynoveda team. I am not other women, who are going through the same phase. So I think there's a lot of solidarity building that happens. And that leads to them making a repeat purchase. So to your answer around commerce, right? It's retention that they purchase the product, they become a part of the community. We do webinars, we talk about women's stories, we appreciate women celebrating their milestones, give them information. It leads to repeat and recurring customers rate. So that's how the commerce thing.
Interesting. This is the first time somebody is telling me that community's core purpose should be retention rather than lead generation. Interesting. You said you raised your initial seed round, I'm guessing. When did you raise and how much was that?
We raised our seed round in November 2019, and we raised $1 million then. And subsequently, that was our seed round. And the Series A happened, which is a $10 million round in March 2023, very recently, just 6 months.
Who led the seed round?
Seed round was led by this wonderful, venture capital, very, very popular firm called Fireside Ventures. Founder of that is this wonderful person called Kawaljeet Singh. And Fireside is known for its investments in Mama Earth, Boat, and we were among the first few, who kind of were able to convince, Kawal and Vinay, who are partners at Fireside, to believe and share our vision and invest in us almost like in a pre-revenue, pre-product.
Okay, amazing. And that 1 million would have helped you in terms of your building your online D2C website. And uh, how did you create the inventory of products? Like was it third party manufacturing? And were these like proprietary products? Who was the IP for it? Or help me understand, help me understand the launch. Like first March when you launched, what all pieces you put in place for that?
Look, I think, one of the things that we had by virtue of Dr. Aarti Patil being our co-founder and a knowledge partner is that she, by that time in her 10 years career, she had already treated thousands and thousands of patients. So she knew the formulation that works and that doesn't. What was missing was a convenient form of product. She was giving the consumers 5 different products because the formulation that she wanted was not readily available in the market. And that was the innovation Gynoveda. Can we combine these 40 herbs to a single pill that works for PCOS? So our initial investment went into iterations in getting the innovation piece. Then came the whole iteration of, now that we have innovated the pill, does it really work? So we iterated on the efficacy part, and that's the reason why today Gynoveda's products are super efficacious, is because of the sheer grunt work that happened in the initial day. So we've changed the whole product form from a liquid kadwa kada to a pill which is convenient to consume, convenient to ship anywhere in the world, and extremely affordable. So I think that's the initial part. Then the second challenge was, how do you really communicate this well to consumers? And that's where the whole science behind the product page on the website and the video, the carousel, the brand building, a huge portion of investment went into getting the packaging right, getting the whole technology piece right. Now, how do you really communicate on camera, audio, visual? If you go to an agency, the bills are pretty big, and it takes a lot of time. So we invested heavily in content team internally, the whole equipment. So we built our own studio to be able to dole out the content, because we were we had this vision of being the thought leader in the category that we appeal. So I think the overall investment went into all those areas, which is the content creation, the product creation, R&D, technology creation. All of this, eventually led to we being able to launch a worthy, offering on March 1st, 2020, which is the Reach In website. If there is one thing where the investment of heart and soul and not money that has gone in is actually the community, because you could make a Facebook group without any cost, but you cannot bring 1 lakh consumers without really, even if you throw money at it, the people will not. So I think everything other than community had money and it. We invested in that because we acted frugal, and innovations are best done frugal. We did not utilize the whole $1 million in doing that. In fact, that's my message to, budding entrepreneurs and founders, that if you really have something running in your mind, you want to try something, it doesn't take $1 million. You can actually develop a playbook and then go on to raise money. And that developing of playbook actually needs approximately 50 lakhs to less than 1 crore. And that money is actually required for iterating when you fail. So that's been the kind of money that was utilized. The money after that has been all about expansion.
Okay. 1 million lasted you for like 2 years. Sounds.
Yes. The answer is yes. I mean, it's only very recently. See, I think the whole focus was, Akshay, in sustainable business and growing profitably. I think it's a shame. I'll be not looked at in the right light in my Banya community if I were to be running a burning train. And I think they would say that, yaar, isse achhe to hum hi apna business kar lete hain. How do you really justify so much money being raised? So I think I've been born and brought up in family community that believes in building businesses that last and building businesses that makes profit. So even if we raise money, I think we use the money as if it's our own money, because end of the day, in return for money, you're giving a part of your company, which is the most expensive thing in the world.
What was the traction like from 1st March onwards? Like, what kind of monthly revenue were you seeing over the next couple of months?
Well, I think, the journey of, first of all, in the first year, from a zero revenue, we traveled the journey of 7 crores in a year's time. It's, in hindsight, looks like a very sexy story. But in the first month, which is in the March 2020, when we made our first 5 lakh rupee sale, we were celebrating, and then 23rd March 2020, COVID happened and everything was shut. And we said, maybe we are sealed to doom. But after 2 months, which is after 23 days of lockdown, then after a month of lockdown, we came back with a big bang. And in the third month, we cranked up like 20 lakhs of revenue, which mounted to 50 lakhs, which took some time to mount to 60 lakhs. Eventually, we closed the whole, first year with like a 7 crore in revenue. And I think for a company of category building space, uh, that was called good enough traction. That means that's called a product market fit. That means that your first 10,000 consumers have used your product, they have written a Google review, they have given you feedback whether the product works or not. Are there any side effects? Uh, does the product show any signs of long-term effects? I think the product market was clear that it's not 100 consumers that have bought, but it is 10,000 consumers. And that 10,000 consumers in the next year became like a lakh consumer. And today we are sitting at 4 lakh consumers.
Okay, amazing. There's this ratio which VCs like to look at, which is like the CAC to LTV, like customer acquisition cost versus the long-term value of the customer. Like how much would you earn over lifetime? What is that ratio like for you?
Like, our CAC to LTV to CAC ratio, the way we look at this is that we take about 7 months to break even on our CAC. So our CAC is around 600, 700, anywhere between, 700 to 1,000 based on the kind of product that we're selling. And our LTV over a 18-month period is about 5,000.
Okay. Is it predictable? What will be the purchases each month?
Well, now we have cohorts all the way running from March 2020 till now. So it's fairly a science as to how much will that end up in 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. But our effort is that how do we improve it by 3x? That means when we started selling, say, for example, one of our, product that is a bestseller, which is fertility pills. When we started, we were learning. So in the first 6 months, our LTV wasn't really that great. As we learned, we educated the cohorts and those consumers that we are acquiring new, and they stuck around for a longer time. And then when we understood further, and then we implemented changes in the retention journeys and how do you communicate, what do you communicate, it only became better. So I think retention or repeat purchases is a function of how well do you educate your consumers, make them aware about the do's and don'ts, set clear expectations. I think false expectations never work, right? I mean, Ayurveda takes time. It starts to show its magic in 6 months. So we say if you are looking for quick fix and you're expecting things will work in a month's time, you're better off not starting at all. And I think that also we learned over time that set clear expectations. It's okay to have 50 customers versus 200 customers, but those 50 customers will stick around for a longer period of time as compared to 200 customers. Out of that, only 5 will actually stick.
There is this conflict that for a customer, the best possible outcome is that they don't need you anymore, that they churn. And
Sure.
that
I
you
think
don't
Rachana and
retain
I
things.
both have a perspective on that. हमारी अब पूरी जिंदगी कभी खत्म नहीं होती, राइट? आज एक है, कल दूसरी हो. आज अगर हमने एक बीमारी ठीक करी है, I'm sure you're going to come back. It's like exactly like the doctor business, right? You go to that doctor for X problem, and you get cured. Things get well. Doesn't mean that you're not going to go back to the doctor. You may go back to the doctor after a year. You may not go to the doctor for a year, but after a year, if there is some problem that occurs, that's the first doctor you will.
And there are two parts now to the business, right? One is the curative part, which is very clearly when the disorder gets established and she's looking for a permanent. The other part is wellness. उसमें
Internet.
even if there is a cure, somebody. So just to take an example, pigmentation, right? Because it's so in your face and the whole awkwardness that you have, even if your pigmentation has completely disappeared and your skin is back on track, you still are worried whether am I going to look the same as earlier or not. So I think mindset, even if we want to ensure that, women completely come out of this problem, which they do, in our case, in PCOS, in fertility, in vaginal discharge, a phenomenal results. But like Vishal said, there is your fear or apprehension that what if I don't follow the diet anymore? So you will come out of the problem, but you want to be guilt free and keep something on a maintenance mode. Whereas wellness as a product category works on a very different mindset. So I think what really matters to us, Akshay, is one, obsession with productivity. I think we leave no stone unturned. Our products go through extensive clinical trials. There are clinical studies which are published in the European Journal of Pharmaceutical and Medical Research. Ipsos has done an extensive consumer study on one of our products for vaginal discharge. Thousands of open, unfiltered, unadulterated consumer reviews in the communities. Product efficacy is one thing that we are very, very focused. And the second thing is our transparency of what you're consuming is known to every individual. So we put it out there in the open. On the website, we mention what to expect every month. And yeah, there is, I think, enough and more problems to be solved.
Sorry. What is your product range today? You originally were only like products for
That's right.
gynecological
Yes.
problems. What is it today?
So we started off with menstrual health. We have now expanded into four more categories. One is the reproductive health, which is today by far our best category. So menstrual, reproductive, there is intimate and vaginal wealth, and then there is general wealth, which is your diabetes, thyroid, liver, and we've come up with something for hair fall, and also in terms of the product range. We moved from 7 products that we launched in 2020. We are right now at about 35 products. And we have another 13 to 14 products in the roadmap for this financial year. I think for us, it's not just about bringing out any product. Right? Very closely, we look at does it fit into our golden circle and Gynoveda. And then I think the second question that we always answer is what is our differentiation? If the market is huge, but we don't have a differentiation, even though it fits into the golden circle, I don't think we apply our time and effort because it's very easy to bring out a product. The hard part starts after that, is getting your differentiation communication right and finding the audience to not just purchase, but repeat your product.
Okay. Yeah. So you would see yourself as, let's say, like a modern day version of a Hamdard, which has both products which have some sort of a health use case as well as products which are more lifestyle oriented.
Well, I think the way we look at this, Akshay, is that there is this whole life stage from 15 to 55. And there are 400 period cycles, 2 pregnancies, and there are various life stages and requirements. At some stage, it will be medicine which is required, and at some stage, a maintenance product. Our vision is to be able to give everything what a woman needs from the age of 15.
Would it include
Right.
beauty? Like
Sorry.
but-
To add, I think it's not, we don't look at ourselves only as a product company. I think the larger point is we are an healthcare company, right? D2C is just a medium. And that medium became glorified because of the entire wave around D2C. And plus, because COVID happened, it was a logical medium. Clearly, we are healthcare. So it's a right amalgamation between product, service, uh, content, community.
Would you also look at mass market consumer products like, say, a cream?
If we are very clear that it's going to, the problem has to be large. And second, like I said, it fits into our golden circle. If it does and we have a differentiation, fine. But just because, a cream is a faster way to acquire, and at least let's just get somebody into your universe of Gynoveda, I don't think that's something that we've done so far. So I think choose the battles wisely. But yeah, like I said, open to the entire spectrum of 15 to 55 years of age. What all do women need? And making Ayurveda as a first choice. I think that's the bigger one. It's not just bringing out products, but how do you make sure that she does not look at Ayurveda as the last choice, but as the first choice for her problems.
Got it. Okay. I guess, again, I'm just trying to bring in some comparables so that people find it easy to understand. Someone like, say, a Himalaya, which is like a range of products from consumer to health and wellness to even medicinal. Okay, got it. Um, is there a process or a science behind your decision on which product to launch next? Like you said, you have about half a dozen products in the pipeline, and there are some, I think, 3 dozen odd products or SKUs which are already out there. How does that happen?
Great. So I think the first step, is, like I said, the community, what does it give back to us is massive and rich consumer insight, right? So looking at what is a complete wish list coming from our consumers, and they are the ones who are already using Gynoveda products. And if they are coming forward and asking for products, which means the product is worked. So starts with our wish list. We then just, at that point of time, we don't eliminate. We just draw out a complete laundry or a bucket list. It then goes to the golden circle to say, does it fit into Gynoveda's golden circle of the why, the how, and the what? After that, we do a complete Google keyword search volume analysis to say what is the kind of volume we are seeing on Google as well as on marketplaces, and if there is a market. If the volume is massive, our golden circle has been met, and if our product differentiation is clear, then it goes. If the volume is great, but we don't understand or can bring out a product there, it dies down. Or, if we know that fits our golden circle, but there is hardly any volume. And I'll just elaborate this. So we launched sometime back a product for premenstrual syndrome, PMS, and very clearly fits into our golden circle, right? So there was a tick there. Volume was massive in terms of what symptoms women were experiencing when they get PMS. Mood swings, irritability, fatigue, also period pain. But when we launched the product, we just didn't have any up. And the reason being, Google's keyword research does not necessarily translate into intent to buy. She's also possibly looking for home remedies, right? So we've had a lot of learnings. It made a tick in one of the boxes, but it has still not resulted into great revenue or repeat. Or sometimes it's not made a tick here, but it's totally surpassed our expectations. So I think still fine tuning science or this process, but yes, there is a clear path towards a new product development.
How do you spend your marketing budgets? Like I'm assuming one part would be in content creation, but what else works for you? Where do your marketing dollars go? What have you learned in terms of what's giving you better ROI?
Okay, so for us, there are two kind of marketing. One is intent-based marketing, and the other one is discovery marketing. Wherever the products are fairly clear, where consumers are searching. For example, they go to Google and they search for a problem. It's an intent-based marketing, and that's what happens on Google. Eventually, we follow them on every other media platform, and show them content. If it's a discovery-based product, which is they don't know that Ayurveda can solve this problem, they're not even searching for it, is when we show them content and educate them on Facebook and Instagram. And look, I think over the years, we have learned this formula of 4 M and an A for us to be effective in our market. The four M's are, first of all, the A is we need to be clear who's our audience. Once we are clear about the audience, and what problem they're facing and what are they trying to solve, what's their need, what's their want, then the first M is what is the message you would like to install in their head. The second M is who's the best messenger to be installing that message. Is it a doctor? Is it a consumer testimonial, one consumer to the other consumer? Or is it Tapsi Pannu? Like Tapsi Pannu has been our brand ambassador. And she's done a fabulous job in communicating our message to the consumers. So that's the second M, which is the messenger. The third M is what is the medium you're choosing to communicate? Instagram, Facebook, social media, television, newspaper, and so on. And the fourth M is multiple times. How many times are you going to show that same message so that it is edged in the mind of consumers? So I think this 4M and A, has constantly kept us focused in market.
And what would be the split between, so you have, one is a celebrity endorsement spend with Tapsi Pannu, then you would be spending on Facebook and Instagram and all these platforms, and then you would be spending on creating content. What's the split of your marketing budget?
See, content creation, takes 20% to 30% of our budget. Content creation is expensive. We have in-house team, we have outsourced teams. And the basic formula is whatever is the cost of creation of content, at least you need to spend 5 to 7 times
on promoting the content.
Because what's the fun in creating the content when it will only sit on your, and when enough and more people have not seen it enough and more times.
Interesting. And you host it on your website or on YouTube or on Facebook, or like if you make a video?
Every touch point online. So you will find that video on my website. You will find them on Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube. And ultimately, it is the ROAS, return on ad spend, that decides whether, consumers have liked it or not liked it. Look, I think the great part about online channels is very pristine. It's very pure. It's very honest. Give these online channels a content and give them like 1 lakh rupees and they show it to 10 lakh people. People are very, very unforgiving and they are very, very honest. If they don't like something, they will simply swipe up. That's your feed.
Yep. Amazing. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Now, what's like, you raised this 10 million round recently. Was this round harder to raise or was the first round harder to raise?
What a great question, Akshay. I think the first round was less harder to raise. Of course, I would both took away our heart and soul, and it was soul crushing experience because after having seen 70 rejections, you still have to smile and be up in your spirit on the 71st pitch, because the 71st guy is as much a possibility and doesn't know. And you can't say that I've had 70 rejections. So from a soul crushing experience, both were equally hard. In the first one, I think it was about managing your own anxieties, because both Rachana and I had taken this leap of faith together after having the salary addiction for 20 years, to let go that salary addiction for almost 1.5 years, and then go and pitch. So it was harder at a very personal level. The second one was harder at a more professional level. We had enough money in the bank. There was no need to really raise money. Funding winter was already there. So it was all about creating the war chest to be able to create a massive machine. Yet, in spite of having 3 lakh consumers, in spite of having proved the product market fit, we are in the space of category creation. And on top of that, being founders in their middle age, we have some philosophies. Here, अगर दिल नहीं मिला investor के साथ, तो हम पैसे नहीं लेते. Right? So we had our own set of rejections. not just in this round, which is a $10 million round, but even in the $1 million round. Because end of the day, as a couple, we don't want a third guy in the mix who not only screw up the business, will also screw up everything else.
Right, right. Amazing, amazing. Um, how does it work as being co-founders and being husband and wife together? How do you make it succeed?
To make it succeed, always say wife first. So in this case, the response
Actually, as simple as that. The moment the universal truth is very graciously accepted, I a lot of things. So I think, like I said, right, it's not like we've never worked with each other. And it wasn't like something we were setting up for. It just happened. And it happened so quickly that honestly, I don't think it even hit us what we are getting into. I think at that, for us, it's our friendship, like literally being just friends, being able to tear each other down, no sugarcoating, having our back covered by each other. So I think a lot of those things, uh, definitely is what really helped us sail through some of those. I think initially when you work as husband and wife, right? I'm not saying there's a power struggle, but there's literally that need of who is that primary owner and who's the secondary owner. I think something that if it identified and if it gets settled right at the beginning, I think it becomes easy.
Like in terms of splitting decision making. For these
Yes.
areas, you are the decision maker. For these areas,
Yeah.
I'm the decision maker.
Yeah, yeah. And also, what happens is that it becomes easier for your stakeholders. Otherwise, even internally, the team is going to be confused, right? They don't know who's really the commander taking the army forward. And so is the case with external stakeholders. S- I think for us, what happened was very quickly we realized what our strengths are. And let's leverage us. So everything to do with people, whether it's consumers, whether it's our internal team, scaling from 14 member to now, more than 100-member team that we have. I think all of that was something that I was, leading from the front because that's been something that's in my, DNA. I've done it for decades. And everything to do with building blocks of the business when it came to strategy, when it came to putting the funnel together, when it came to SCM, supply chain management, which is a backbone. I think that's something that operations heavy was something Vishal had. But yeah, I think we did go through our fair share of rough edges to say, I know it all, why are you telling me this? I think that happens, but for not too long. And I think I'm going to give the credit to our age.
Amazing,
That-
amazing,
Our
amazing.
age and age of the marriage.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, you know, what's been your learnings as founders? And you are becoming founders after a very long corporate career. You must have discovered some insights on how being a founder is different from being in a job, and what's the way in which somebody who's currently in the corporate world can prepare themselves to become a founder?
Okay, so look, I always wanted to go back to doing my own business. I started that way, very quickly realized that, I don't have the skills for a scalable business. I need to pick that up. And I did this whole 20-year stint, 15-year stint of doing various jobs and eventually came back. So I think somewhere the hunch, the intuition was always there. But I think during this journey, what I realized is that, especially in the last 4 years, that realization became all the more clear. That do not believe the media. They are only telling you the 0.001 story, which is the success story, so much money raised, so much unicorns done, and so on. That's not the complete story. So my learning and my message would be never, never, never do a startup or your own business when you're doing a job for money. It's not going to last long. You'll get very, very quickly tired, right? Because the money really comes only after you create value in the business. And value creation takes time. In the first couple of years, you'll only be iterating, and money is nowhere in the scene. And if you fail to create value, the money won't follow. So if somebody is getting into this whole game of startup and I want to become a founder for money, you're in for disappointment. But if you truly passionately feel about solving a problem and you are able to create the differentiator or solution for which people are willing to pay for, is when you'll end up creating value for stakeholders in the business, stakeholders for consumers, and the last guy who will be, getting valued is actually the founder and the other. So I think this is the reality check, which media doesn't talk about. So I think the question is to folks who are itching to get into this whole zone, is that itch because of the whole media hype created? Or is that itch coming from the inner voice? If that itch is coming from the inner voice of being able to solve the problem, very passionate to solve the problem, and willing to put up with very, very modest earning for the first couple of years while you're doing and creating value, then you won't be disappointed. In fact, it will be very, very gratifying, fulfilling. That's what I would say.
Yeah. So were you able to take home salaries like when you raised your seed round after that, or like by when did you start taking home salaries?
Well, I think, when we raised, first of all, Rachana and I operated for almost 18 months without any salary when we were all on our own and had no clue that Gynoveda is in the making. But both of us were very passionate about what we were doing and what lied ahead. When we raised money, $1 million, we took salaries which were paltry salary. It's not even not even worth talking about. It was just because, all right, in the business and we have raised money, so it's fine to take a little bit of. So almost for another 18 months, the salaries that we were drawing in the corporate world versus what we were drawing in our own business, having raised $1 million, is as good as nothing. So almost 3 years of grunt and grind, without really any promise of that 100 crore dream that every founder dreams. And if you really do the statistics, how many have a net worth of 100 crores, personal net worth of 100 crores in India? It's 0.0016%. So larger message, don't get into this for money, get into this for wealth creation, get into this for value creation, and you'll have to stay committed for 10 years.
Okay.
And there is very high chance of failure.
Right. What's your top line going to be by end of current financial year?
It's 120 crores to 150 crores is what we're getting.
Okay. And how much of this will be from online? How much from offline? Have you started offline yet, or is it all online?
Well, I think, this year is a year of omni-channel. We have, based on consumer demand, based on what consumers are telling Rachana in the community, and they're asking for meeting us, meeting our doctors, taken the first step of starting Gynoveda's clinic in Mumbai. And the first Gynoveda clinic is coming up there. Our attempt is to make a playbook out of this one clinic and scale further.
So this would be similar to Patanjali. Like Patanjali also has where you can
This would
walk in,
be
meet a doctor.
actually it's a super specialty clinic. So
Okay.
it's not going to be a pharmacy count clinic. It is going to be a super specialized consultation clinic, and I think um, the TAM pretty much explodes everything else that we have done so far. And we ideally should have done this 6 months earlier, but better late than never. I'm super excited that we're at the right juncture, and I think Akshay traces back to the fact that we never considered ourselves D2C. Very soon we realized we are building a healthcare stack. And so this was, obviously in the pipeline. It's just that you have to time your milestones right because it's going to be capex heavy. And of course, now, with the Series A funding, the proportion of allocation for technology, for, scaling these clinics, and essentially, I think just making Gynoveda accessibility and affordability as the prime focus, because that will make sure that, to what I said earlier, that it will enable women to make Ayurveda as the first choice and not the last choice.
So, I completely understand the need to go the clinic route because I think in India, pure online has a ceiling. There's only so much you do. You need to be offline. But then you remember you told me the problems of going through the clinic route in the early days. You invested in a clinic that it's asset
Yeah,
heavy, hard to find doctors, hard to scale it up.
yeah.
It's like a very operations heavy kind of a business. Very different DNA from what you built so far. Uh, so, what is the way in which you see uh, this being part of the overall organization DNA? How will you make it work?
Look, I think our objective is to make Gynoveda a Bharat ka brand and make Gynoveda available at every touch point. So there are consumers that are telling us that I'm very comfortable with a virtual, a video call. We'll make it available. A consumer is saying कि मैं comfortable नहीं हूँ. I want to come and meet. We want to create that as an option. We want to create an option to chat with us, phone with us, meet us, or even to the extent of franchisees of Gynoveda, which is other doctors, latching on to Gynoveda products. The whole idea is to change lives of 1 million women by 2030. And for that, whether clinic, no clinic, online, all of these are distribution channels. And the next 7 years is a year of omni-channel. Some will take a longer time, some will scale faster, but end of the day, these are all distribution.
Do you have a target number of clinics that you want to open over the next year or so?
Look, I
Or
think
this is like too early to.
it's too early, but I would say that 100 cities, we need to have at least one clinic of Ayurveda. And,
Well,
and if it's
in
Mumbai,
years, like you want to have 100 clinics?
7 years, a 7 year span. Like I said, I mean, a broader vision, right? I mean, this 7 years may become 4 years. It all depends on what we learn from our playbook from the first clinic. It could be done faster, it has to be done slower. But I think our central mission stays the same: make a difference in women's life, 1 crore women by 2030.
And this would be like a proper clinic, like a clinic first, and not like a pharmacy-led, uh, like one room inside a pharmacy where a doctor is sitting. Um, okay.
It is a full-fledged clinic. It's a 3 consultation rooms. They have 3 to 5 doctors available all the time. You can consult them, you can conduct tests, and you can buy the medicines.
What if someone comes with a problem which is not solved through a Gynoveda medicine?
Absolutely fine. We are happy to guide, because end of the day, our again mission is to make an impact in women's life. So tomorrow I may not be able to solve it, but somebody else able to solve it. I think the way we are looking at the clinic is come to us, talk to us, we'll guide you.
And
It's a 40 clinic, and let us understand your problem and provide you the solution.
you would evaluate success of clinic based on how much it earns or how much sales of product it generates, because it would earn through consultation also, right? You would have like a regular. So what will you use to evaluate if the clinic model is successful? Like, what is more important for you? Should it be standalone profitable as a service, or should it lead to more sales?
Look, I think every in the retail world, every catchment area has a limit as far as the top line is concerned. So I think, has it been able to do justice to that catchment area? Operationally profitable, and most important metric is percentage of people coming by word of mouth after 80. Because word of mouth happens only when your product and your service is working. So after third year, my CAC to LTV ratio has to be like 10x.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting. And that brings us to the end of this conversation. I want to ask you for a favor now. Did you like listening to this show? I'd love to hear your feedback about it. Do you have your own startup ideas? I'd love to hear them. Do you have questions for any of the guests that you heard about in this show? I'd love to get your questions and pass them on to the guests. Write to me at ad@thepodium.in. That's ad@thepodium.in.